The scream that tore from Eleanor Everett's throat when her brother's fist shattered the kitchen window echoed through the dusty streets of Independence, Missouri. But nobody came running, because they had learned long ago that interfering with Marcus Everett's rage only made things worse for everyone involved. Eleanor grabbed the carpetbag she had packed 3 days earlier and bolted through the back door, her heart hammering against her ribs as she heard Marcus bellowing her name with a fury that made the hair on her arms stand on end. The year was 1878, and Independence sat on the edge of civilization, a town that had seen its glory days as a jumping-off point for wagon trains heading west, but now settled into a quieter existence as a farming and ranching community. Eleanor had lived here all 22 years of her life, first with her parents until they died of cholera 5 years ago, and then under the increasingly violent control of her 28-year-old brother Marcus, who had inherited their father's mercantile business, and believed he had also inherited complete authority over his sister's life. She ran through the narrow alleyways between buildings, her boots kicking up clouds of Missouri dirt, her dark hair coming loose from its pins. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, and sweat soaked through her plain cotton dress. Behind her, she could hear Marcus shouting, his voice getting closer. He had been drinking since noon, angry because Eleanor had refused his demand that she marry Walter Grimsby, a wealthy but cruel man twice her age who had offered Marcus a substantial sum for her hand. Eleanor's lungs burned as she ran past the livery stable, past the general store, heading toward the only place she could think of where Marcus might not immediately follow. The church stood at the far end of town, its white steeple rising against the cloudless sky, and next to it lived Pastor Sullivan and his wife Martha. But as Eleanor rounded the corner, she collided hard with something solid and warm, and strong hands caught her arms to keep her from falling. "Whoa there, miss. What's got you running like the devil himself is on your heels?" Eleanor looked up into the face of a man she had seen around town but never properly met. He was tall, probably 6 feet or more, with sun-bronzed skin and dark brown hair that touched his collar. His eyes were a striking gray-blue, like storm clouds over the prairie, and they studied her with concern. He wore the practical clothing of a working rancher, worn denim trousers, a chambray shirt with the sleeves rolled up revealing strong forearms, and a leather vest. A hat hung down his back by its stampede string. "Please," Eleanor gasped, glancing over her shoulder. "I need to hide. My brother, he is coming, and I cannot let him find me." The rancher's expression shifted immediately from curiosity to something harder, more protective. He had seen the bruises on this young woman's face before, had noticed how she always kept her head down when she came to town, how she flinched at sudden movements. His jaw tightened. "Come with me. Quickly now." He took her hand, his palm rough and calloused but gentle, and led her around the back of the church to where a sturdy chestnut mare stood tied to a hitching post. Without asking permission, he lifted Eleanor onto the horse and swung up behind her, his arms coming around to grip the reins. "Samuel Sterling," he said quietly near her ear as he turned the horse away from town. "My ranch is about 3 miles north. You will be safe there." "Eleanor Everett," she managed to say, her whole body trembling now that the immediate rush of fear was subsiding into something deeper and more exhausting. "But Marcus will look everywhere. He will never let me go. He thinks he owns me." "Nobody owns anybody," Samuel said, and there was steel in his voice. "Not anymore, not ever. You hold on now." He urged the mare into a steady canter, fast enough to put distance between them and town but not so fast as to draw attention or tire the horse. Eleanor had no choice but to lean back against Samuel's solid chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, the security of his arms on either side of her. She had never been this close to a man who was not her brother, and under different circumstances she might have been mortified, but right now all she could feel was a desperate gratitude. The Sterling Ranch appeared on the horizon after about 20 minutes of riding. It was not the largest spread in the county, but it was well maintained, with sturdy fences, a barn that looked freshly painted, and a house built of solid timber with a wide porch that wrapped around the front. Cattle grazed in the distance, and Eleanor could see a few ranch hands working near the corrals. Samuel guided the horse straight to the house and dismounted first, then reached up to help Eleanor down. Her legs felt unsteady when her feet touched the ground, and he kept one hand on her elbow. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his eyes searching her face. "Not today," Eleanor said softly. "But he would have hurt me if I had stayed. He has been getting worse, especially since he started drinking more. And when I refused to marry the man he chose, I knew it was only a matter of time before he did something terrible." Samuel's mouth pressed into a thin line. "Come inside. You must be thirsty and tired. We will figure out what to do." The interior of the house was simple but comfortable. The main room served as both kitchen and living area, with a large stone fireplace, a sturdy table with chairs, and furniture that looked handmade but well crafted. Everything was surprisingly clean and organized for a bachelor's home. "I try to keep things tidy," Samuel said, noticing her surprised expression. "My mother taught me that cleanliness was next to godliness and old habits stick." He pulled out a chair for her. "Sit down, I will get you some water." Eleanor sank into the chair, her carpetbag clutched on her lap. Her hands were shaking. Samuel pumped water into a tin cup and brought it to her, then pulled out another chair and sat across from her, giving her space. "Drink slowly," he said. "Then tell me everything if you are able. I need to know what we are dealing with." Eleanor took a long drink of the cold, clean water. It helped steady her nerves. When she looked at Samuel Sterling, she saw no judgment in his eyes, only concern and a quiet strength that made her feel, for the first time in years, that maybe someone would actually help her rather than tell her to submit to her brother's authority as head of the household. "My parents died 5 years ago," she began, her voice wavering at first but growing stronger. "Cholera took them both within days of each other. Marcus was 23 then and I was 17. At first he was kind, or at least not cruel. He ran our father's store and I kept house and helped with the books. But then he started drinking and gambling. He lost money, quite a lot of it, and he became angry all the time. He blamed me for things that were not my fault. If supper was not perfect, if I spoke to another man in town, if I questioned any of his decisions, he would." She swallowed hard. "He would hit me, or throw things, or lock me in my room without food." Samuel's hands clenched into fists on the table, but his voice remained calm. "Did anyone in town try to help you? Some knew, I think. Pastor Sullivan spoke to Marcus once, but Marcus told him I was clumsy and prone to accidents. After that, Marcus became more careful about where he hit me, places that would not show. And he told everyone in town that I was unstable, that I made up stories for attention. Most people believed him because he is charming when he wants to be, and he is a businessman with standing in the community. I am just his sister, and women are not always believed." "I believe you," Samuel said firmly, "and you are not going back there, not unless you choose to, and I cannot imagine why you would." "He will come looking for me," Eleanor said. "He will be furious, and if he finds me here, he might hurt you too. Let him try." Samuel's voice was quiet but absolutely certain. "I have dealt with worse than an angry drunk. You are safe here, Eleanor. I give you my word." Something in his tone, in the way he looked at her with those steady gray blue eyes, made Eleanor want to believe him. She nodded slowly, blinking back tears that she had been holding in for so long she had almost forgotten how to cry. "Thank you," she whispered. "I have nowhere else to go. No other family, no money of my own. Everything belongs to Marcus according to the law." "We will figure it all out," Samuel said. "One step at a time. For now, you need rest. There is a spare room upstairs, second door on the left. It has a lock on the inside of the door. You can lock yourself in if it makes you feel safer." Eleanor had not expected such consideration, such understanding of how violated and vulnerable she felt. She stood up, still clutching her carpetbag. "I do not know how to repay your kindness, Mr. Sterling. Samuel. Just Samuel. And you do not need to repay anything. Helping someone who needs it is just what decent people do, or should do anyway." He stood as well. "Go on up and rest. I need to talk to my men, let them know to keep watch. If your brother comes out here, we will see him coming long before he reaches the house." Eleanor climbed the stairs on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. The room Samuel had indicated was small but pleasant, with a narrow bed covered in a faded quilt, a washstand with a pitcher and basin, and a window that looked out over the ranch. True to his word, there was a lock on the inside of the door. Eleanor turned it with a satisfying click, then set down her carpetbag and finally allowed herself to collapse onto the bed. She meant to stay awake, to plan what she would do next, but exhaustion overtook her almost immediately. For the first time in months, she fell into a deep sleep, her body finally releasing the constant tension of waiting for the next blow, the next explosion of rage. Downstairs, Samuel stood on his porch and watched the sun sink lower in the sky. He had built this ranch from nothing over the past 6 years, starting with a small herd and gradually building it up through hard work and careful management. He employed 3 permanent ranch hands, old Tom, who had been cowboying since before Samuel was born, and 2 younger men, Jake and Henry, who were good workers and loyal. Samuel trusted them. He walked down to the bunkhouse where his men were finishing their supper. They looked up when he entered, and Tom immediately set down his plate. "Got trouble, boss?" "Might have," Samuel said. He explained the situation briefly, not sharing more of Eleanor's personal story than necessary, but making it clear that she was under his protection and that her brother might come looking for her. "Marcus Everett," Jake said, nodding. "I have seen him in town, mean drunk. Got into a fight at the saloon last month and nearly took out a man's eye. If he comes here, we turn him away," Samuel said. "Politely at first, but if he tries to force his way onto my property or threatens Miss Everett, we stop him. Am I clear?" All 3 men nodded. Tom spat tobacco juice into a tin can. "That girl has had a rough time of it. Seen her in town with bruises. Glad somebody is finally standing up for her. We will keep watch." "I will take first watch tonight," Samuel said. "Outside the house, just in case he comes after dark." Henry frowned. "You think he would ride out here in the dark?" "I think a man drunk and angry enough does not always think clearly. Better safe than sorry." Samuel returned to the house as twilight deepened into night. He checked on Eleanor once, listening at her door and hearing the soft, steady breathing of deep sleep. Good. She needed rest. Then he collected a rifle, a blanket, and a canteen, and positioned himself in a rocking chair on the porch where he had a clear view of the road leading to the ranch. The night was clear and cool, the way October nights in Missouri could be. Stars spread across the sky in a glittering river, and somewhere in the distance a coyote howled. Samuel settled in for a long night, the rifle across his lap, his eyes on the darkness. He found himself thinking about the woman sleeping upstairs. Eleanor Everett. She was beautiful, even with the fear and exhaustion etched on her face, even with the fading bruises. But more than that, There was something in her eyes, a core of strength that had not been broken despite everything her brother had done to her. She had not given up. She had run, had chosen to save herself, and Samuel respected that courage more than he could say. He had seen too much cruelty in his life. His own father had been a hard man, though not abusive, just emotionally distant and demanding. Samuel had left home at 17 to make his own way, working as a ranch hand and then a trail driver, saving every penny until he could buy this land and start his own operation. He had always promised himself that if he ever had a family, he would lead with kindness, not fear. That he would protect the vulnerable, not exploit them. And now here was Eleanor, needing exactly that kind of protection. Samuel knew the risks. Marcus Everett might come with the law on his side, might claim his legal right as her brother and guardian. But Samuel also knew that sometimes what was legal and what was right were not the same thing. He would do everything in his power to keep Eleanor safe, and if that meant standing against her brother or even the law, so be it. The hours passed slowly. Samuel dozed occasionally but never deeply, always alert for the sound of hoofbeats or footsteps. But the night remained peaceful, and when dawn began to break over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, he allowed himself to relax slightly. If Marcus was coming, it would likely be in daylight when he could see where he was going. Samuel went inside quietly and started a fire in the stove, then put coffee on to boil. He was measuring flour for biscuits when he heard soft footsteps on the stairs. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, looking more rested than yesterday but still wary, like a wild creature ready to bolt at any moment. "Good morning," Samuel said, keeping his voice gentle. "Coffee is almost ready. I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in months," Eleanor admitted. She touched her hair self-consciously, trying to smooth down the tangled waves. "I did not mean to sleep so long. It must be nearly 6 o'clock. You needed it. Come sit down. Do you like biscuits?" "I do, but you do not have to cook for me. I can help. I am actually quite a good cook." "I am sure you are, but this morning you are a guest. Tomorrow, if you feel up to it, we can work out some kind of arrangement. But today, let me take care of things." Eleanor sat at the table, watching as Samuel worked with surprising competence, mixing the biscuit dough and shaping it, sliding the pan into the oven. He moved efficiently around the kitchen, clearly comfortable with the tasks. When the coffee was ready, he poured 2 cups and brought one to her. "Did you really sit outside all night?" Eleanor asked quietly. "I woke once in the night and looked out the window. I saw you on the porch." "I did, and I will again tonight and every night until we are sure you are safe." "You cannot do that forever. You need sleep. You have a ranch to run." "I can sleep in shifts and my men can help with the watch." "Eleanor, I meant what I said yesterday. You are under my protection now, and I take that seriously." Eleanor wrapped her hands around the warm coffee cup, staring down into the dark liquid. "Why are you doing this? You do not even know me." "Most people in town would say I should go back to my brother, that I am causing trouble by running away." Samuel pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "I am doing this because it is the right thing to do, because nobody deserves to live in fear in their own home. And because I know what it is like to feel trapped by circumstances beyond your control." He paused. "When I was younger, I watched my mother endure my father's coldness and harsh words for years. He never hit her, but he hurt her just the same with his constant criticism and disdain. She died when I was 16, and I have always believed that his treatment of her contributed to her early death. I promised myself then that I would never treat anyone that way, and that if I ever had the chance to help someone in a similar situation, I would." Eleanor looked up at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "I am sorry about your mother. Thank you. And I am sorry about what you have endured with your brother. but you are here now and we are going to make sure you stay safe and find a way forward." They ate breakfast together, the biscuits hot and fluffy, accompanied by bacon that Samuel fried up and preserves from his root cellar. As they ate, Samuel asked Eleanor about her skills and interests, learning that she was well educated for a woman of her time, that she loved reading and had a talent for figures that had made her invaluable in helping with her father's business records. She asked him about the ranch, about his life, and gradually the conversation flowed more easily as some of Eleanor's tension eased. After breakfast, Samuel showed her around the property. The ranch was indeed well maintained, with about 200 head of cattle, a dozen horses, and a vegetable garden that had seen better days. Eleanor smiled at the garden. "That needs a woman's touch," she said, "or at least someone who knows something about vegetables. I can rope a steer and break a horse, but I will admit that gardening is not my strong suit," Samuel said with a slight smile. "If you wanted to take that on, I would be grateful, but only if you want to. You are not obligated to work for your keep." "I want to feel useful," Eleanor said firmly. "I cannot just sit around doing nothing. It will make me feel like a burden, and I have felt like a burden to Marcus for too long. If I am staying here, even temporarily, I want to contribute. Then the garden is yours and anything else you want to tackle. The house could use a woman's touch too if you are willing. I do my best, but it is pretty Spartan." They walked back toward the house, and Samuel introduced Eleanor to his ranch hands. Tom doffed his hat respectfully, his weathered face kind. Jake and Henry were younger, probably close to Eleanor's age, and they were polite but clearly curious about the woman who had appeared so suddenly on their boss's ranch. "Miss Everett will be staying with us for a while," Samuel told them. "She is under my protection, and I expect you all to treat her with respect. If her brother comes around, you come get me immediately." "Understood," they all nodded, and Eleanor felt a rush of gratitude for Samuel's matter-of-fact way of handling the situation. He was not making a big, dramatic production of it, just stating facts and expecting his men to respect his decisions. The morning passed peacefully. Eleanor explored the house more thoroughly, taking stock of what was there and what was needed. She found cleaning supplies and set about dusting and scrubbing, needing the physical activity to keep her mind occupied. Samuel worked outside with his men, but she noticed that he stayed close to the house, always within sight of the windows. It was mid-afternoon when Tom came riding up to the house at a gallop, calling for Samuel. Eleanor's heart seized with fear. Samuel strode out of the barn and Tom pointed toward the road. "Rider coming hard. Looks like it might be Marcus Everett." Samuel's expression hardened. "Eleanor, go inside and lock the door. Do not come out unless I tell you it is safe." Eleanor wanted to protest, wanted to stand beside him, but she recognized the wisdom in removing herself from the immediate confrontation. She hurried inside and locked the door, then positioned herself by a window where she could see and hear what was happening. Marcus Everett rode into the yard on a lathered horse, clearly having pushed the animal hard. He was a tall man with the same dark hair as Eleanor, but with a harder, more brutal cast to his features. His face was flushed with anger and possibly drink, and he swayed slightly in the saddle as he pulled up in front of the house. Samuel stood on the porch steps, the rifle held casually but ready. Tom, Jake, and Henry had positioned themselves strategically around the yard, making it clear that Marcus was outnumbered. "Marcus Everett, I presume," Samuel said coolly. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded, his words slightly slurred. "I know you have her. Someone saw you riding out of town with my sister yesterday. She belongs with me. I am her legal guardian. Your sister is an adult woman, not a piece of property. And from what I understand, you have been abusing that guardianship rather badly." Marcus's face darkened with rage. That is family business, none of your concern. Eleanor has always been difficult, disobedient. She needs discipline, and it is my right to provide it. Now send her out here. She is coming home with me. She is not going anywhere unless she chooses to, Samuel said, and I do not think she is going to choose to go back to a man who beats her. You have no right to interfere. I will get the sheriff. I will have you arrested for kidnapping. Go ahead and try. Your sister came here of her own free will, seeking protection from your abuse. There is no kidnapping, just a frightened woman looking for safety. Any reasonable person, including the sheriff, will see that. Marcus's hand moved toward the gun at his hip. Instantly, 4 rifles were trained on him. Samuel had not moved, but his men had, and their message was clear. I would not do that if I were you, Samuel said quietly. You are outnumbered and outgunned, and more importantly, you are in the wrong. You have terrorized your sister for years, and it ends now. If you come onto my property again, if you threaten Eleanor or anyone else here, I will not be so patient. Do I make myself clear? Marcus's face was purple with fury, but he was not so drunk that he could not recognize the danger he was in. This is not over, he spat. Eleanor is my sister. The law says she is under my authority. I will be back with the sheriff, and you will have to hand her over. If the law says she must return to you, then that is something we will discuss with proper legal counsel. But not today, and not at the end of your gun or your fists. Now get off my property. For a long moment, Marcus sat on his horse, his whole body radiating rage. Then he yanked the reins viciously, making the horse squeal in pain, and galloped out of the yard, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Samuel waited until Marcus was completely out of sight before lowering the rifle and allowing his shoulders to relax slightly. Eleanor unlocked the door and stepped out onto the porch, her face pale. He meant it about the sheriff, she said. He will go to town and get the law on his side. Maybe, Samuel said, but maybe not. The sheriff in Independence is John Crawford, and he is a reasonable man. If we can explain the situation to him properly, show him the evidence of what Marcus has done to you, he might not be so quick to force you back. The bruises have faded. And Marcus will charm him, tell him I am unstable and ungrateful. He is very good at that. Samuel looked at her for a long moment. Do you trust me, Eleanor? I barely know you, but yes, I do trust you. You have been kinder to me in one day than anyone has been in 5 years. Then trust me to handle this. We will go into town tomorrow morning and speak to the sheriff ourselves before Marcus can poison the well too badly. We will tell the truth, and we will find a way to keep you safe. I promise you that. Eleanor wanted to believe him, but she had learned through hard experience that promises were easily broken. Still, what choice did she have? Running away again would only delay the inevitable, and she was tired of running, tired of living in fear. All right, she said. We will go tomorrow. That night, Samuel resumed his position on the porch while Eleanor lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep was harder to come by tonight, knowing that Marcus was out there somewhere, planning his next move. But eventually, exhaustion won out, and she drifted into an uneasy sleep, her dreams filled with shadows and shouting. She woke once in the deepest part of the night and went to the window. In the moonlight, she could see Samuel's silhouette in the rocking chair, the rifle across his lap, keeping watch. Something about the sight of him there, steadfast and protective, made tears spring to her eyes. When was the last time anyone had cared enough about her safety to sacrifice their own comfort? She could not remember. Eleanor went back to bed, and this time slept more deeply, some part of her subconscious mind accepting that she was truly safe, at least for now. Morning came with golden sunshine and the smell of coffee. When Eleanor came downstairs, Samuel was again making breakfast, though he looked tired. His eyes were shadowed, and she felt guilty for the sleep he was losing on her behalf. "You cannot keep this up," she said without preamble. "You are going to collapse from exhaustion." "I am tougher than I look," Samuel said, but there was a hint of a smile. "Besides, I told you I would stand guard, and I meant it. But you are right that it is not sustainable long term. We need to resolve this situation one way or another." After breakfast, Samuel hitched up a wagon and they set out for Independence together. The ride took about 40 minutes, and they spent it in quiet conversation. Samuel told Eleanor more about his ranch, about his hopes to expand it and maybe one day have a family to pass it on to. Eleanor spoke cautiously about her dreams, things she had barely allowed herself to think about under Marcus's control. Maybe opening a shop someday, or teaching, or just living a quiet, peaceful life where she did not have to walk on eggshells every moment. "You could do any of those things," Samuel said. "You are smart and capable. Once we get you free of Marcus's control, the world will open up for you." "Women do not have as many choices as men do," Eleanor said pragmatically. "Even free of Marcus, I will need to find some way to support myself. Respectable employment for women is limited, and I have no money to start a business." "One step at a time," Samuel said. "First, we make sure you are safe. Then we figure out the rest." Independence was bustling when they arrived, the main street crowded with wagons and riders. Samuel drove straight to the sheriff's office, a small wooden building next to the courthouse. Sheriff John Crawford was a man in his 50s with iron-gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He looked up when Samuel and Eleanor entered. "Samuel Sterling," he said, nodding. "What brings you to town? And who is this young lady?" "Sheriff Crawford, this is Miss Eleanor Everett. We need to speak with you about a serious matter." The sheriff's eyes sharpened at the name Everett. "Marcus Everett's sister. I had a feeling you might show up here. Your brother came to see me yesterday evening, making all kinds of allegations about kidnapping and manipulation. Said Samuel here had stolen you away and was holding you against your will." "That is a lie," Eleanor said, her voice shaking slightly but clear. "I ran away from Marcus because he has been abusing me for years. Mr. Sterling gave me shelter when I had nowhere else to go. I went with him willingly, begging for his help." Sheriff Crawford leaned back in his chair, studying both of them. "Those are serious accusations, Miss Everett." "Serious on both sides. Your brother is claiming you are mentally unstable and prone to making up stories. He says you need his protection and guidance." "Of course he says that," Eleanor said bitterly. "It is what he has told everyone in town to cover up what he does to me, but it is not true. Sheriff, Marcus has hit me, locked me in my room without food, thrown things at me. He drinks heavily and has a violent temper. Yesterday he was going to force me to marry a man I do not love, a man who offered him money for me as if I were cattle to be sold. I could not take it anymore, so I ran." "Do you have any proof of this abuse?" Eleanor hesitated. "The bruises have mostly faded. Marcus is careful about that, hitting me where it would not show, waiting until the marks heal before letting me go into town. But Pastor Sullivan has seen them in the past. And other people in town must have noticed, even if they did not want to get involved." Sheriff Crawford was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming on his desk. "I will be honest with you, Miss Everett. Legally, your brother has a strong case. You are an unmarried woman, and he is your closest male relative. The law gives him authority over you as your guardian. Unless we can prove abuse, which is difficult without evidence, I do not have grounds to prevent him from taking you back." Eleanor felt her heart sink. "So you are going to force me to return to him, even though I am telling you that he hurts me." "I did not say that." The sheriff held up a hand. "I said legally his case is strong, but the law is not always the same as justice, and I have been wearing this badge long enough to know the difference." I have heard things about Marcus Everett, rumors about his drinking, his temper. I have broken up fights he started in the saloon, and I have seen you, Miss Everett, always keeping your eyes down, always looking afraid. I did not connect all the pieces before, but I am connecting them now." Hope flickered in Eleanor's chest. "Then you believe me?" "I am inclined to believe you, yes, but that does not solve our legal problem. Marcus could go to a judge, get a court order forcing you to return to his custody, and I would have to enforce it, much as I might hate to do so." "There has to be another way," Samuel said, speaking up for the first time. "Some legal protection for Eleanor." The sheriff looked between the two of them, his expression thoughtful. "There is one way. If Miss Everett were married, she would be under her husband's protection, not her brother's. Marcus would have no legal claim on her anymore." The room fell silent. Eleanor stared at the sheriff, her mind racing. Samuel stood very still beside her. "Are you suggesting she should marry just to escape her brother?" Samuel asked quietly. "That seems like trading one form of control for another." "Depends on who she marries," the sheriff said. "If it was to a good man, someone who would treat her with respect and kindness, it would not be control, it would be protection. Legal protection that Marcus could not challenge." Eleanor's cheeks flushed red. The implication was clear and she felt mortified. "I could not ask that of anyone," she said quickly. "Marriage is not something to be entered into lightly, certainly not as a legal convenience." "It is not such a terrible idea," Samuel said slowly, and Eleanor turned to look at him in shock. He met her eyes steadily. "Not if both parties went into it with their eyes open and with mutual respect. Eleanor, I am not proposing to you right here in the sheriff's office. But I am saying that if you needed someone to marry you to keep you safe from Marcus, I would be willing to do that. We could make it a marriage of convenience at first, give you the protection you need, and see where things go from there. I would not demand anything from you that you were not willing to give." Eleanor could not believe what she was hearing. "You would marry me, a woman you have known for less than 2 days, just to protect me from my brother?" "I would. You are a good person, Eleanor. You deserve safety and a chance at happiness. If marrying me gives you that, then yes, I would do it." Sheriff Crawford nodded approvingly. "Samuel Sterling is a good man, Miss Everett, one of the best I know. You could do a lot worse, and to be blunt, you do not have a lot of other options right now. Your brother is not going to give up easily." Eleanor's mind was spinning. Marriage to Samuel Sterling, a man who had shown her more kindness in 2 days than anyone had in years. It was insane. It was impulsive. It was also possibly her only real chance at freedom. "I need to think," she said faintly. "This is all happening so fast." "Take your time," Samuel said gently. "We do not have to decide this second, but Eleanor, I meant what I said. I would be honored to have you as my wife, under whatever terms you are comfortable with." They left the sheriff's office and walked through town, neither speaking. Eleanor's thoughts were a chaotic jumble. Marriage to Samuel. A man who was handsome and kind and strong, who had protected her without asking anything in return. But marriage was supposed to be about love, about building a life together. How could they consider it when they barely knew each other? And yet, what was her alternative? Run again. Keep running for the rest of her life. Eventually, Marcus would find her, or she would run out of places to hide. And she could not stay with Samuel indefinitely without causing scandal that would hurt both of them. They ended up at the edge of town, near a small grove of cottonwood trees where a creek burbled over smooth stones. Samuel stopped and turned to face her. "I know this is overwhelming," he said, "and I do not want you to feel pressured, but I want you to understand something, Eleanor. If you married me, it would not be a prison. It would be a partnership. I am not looking to control you or dominate you. I have run my ranch alone for 6 years, and I have been lonely. I would like a companion, someone to share my life with. If that someone was you, I think we could build something good together, but it would have to be your choice, freely made. Why would you do this? Eleanor asked, searching his face. You could marry anyone. Why take on a woman with all my problems, all my baggage? Samuel was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. When I first saw you in town months ago, something about you caught my attention. The way you moved, like you were trying to make yourself invisible, the sadness in your eyes. I wanted to help you even then, but I did not know how. Then yesterday, when you literally ran into me, it felt like fate giving me a second chance. Eleanor, I am not going to claim I am in love with you. We do not know each other well enough for that yet. But I like you. I respect your courage and your strength. And I think, given time, we could have something real, something good. Is that enough reason? Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. You are the first man who has ever spoken to me like I am a person, not a possession or a burden. The first man who has ever asked what I want instead of telling me what I should do. Then tell me what you want. Right here, right now. Do you want to take this chance with me, or would you prefer to find another way? Eleanor looked into Samuel's storm-gray eyes and saw only sincerity and patience. He would wait for her answer without pressure, would respect whatever choice she made. And in that moment, she realized that while she might not be in love with him yet, she could be. She could very easily fall in love with a man who treated her with such respect and kindness. Yes, she said softly. Yes, I will marry you, Samuel Sterling, if you truly mean it. A smile spread across Samuel's face, transforming his usually serious expression into something warm and almost boyish. I mean it. We can go to Pastor Sullivan right now if you want. Get it done before Marcus has a chance to cause more trouble. They walked back to the church where Eleanor had been running just yesterday. Pastor Sullivan was an elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle manner. When Samuel explained the situation to him, the pastor listened carefully, then looked at Eleanor. My dear, are you certain this is what you want? Marriage is a sacred bond, not to be entered into lightly even under unusual circumstances. I am certain, Eleanor said, and she was surprised to find that she meant it. Samuel has been nothing but kind to me. I believe he will be a good husband, and I will do my best to be a good wife to him. Pastor Sullivan nodded. Then I will perform the ceremony, but I want you both to understand that I will be holding you to those vows. Samuel, you are promising to love and cherish this woman, to protect and provide for her. Eleanor, you are promising to be a true partner to this man, to support and stand by him. These are serious commitments. I understand, Samuel said firmly, and I am ready to make those promises. As am I, Eleanor added. They stood before the altar in the small church, with Pastor Sullivan's wife Martha as witness. Eleanor was wearing the same plain dress she had worn for 2 days, and Samuel still wore his ranch clothes. There were no flowers, no fancy decorations, no family gathered to celebrate. But as Samuel took Eleanor's hand in his and spoke his vows, promising to honor and cherish her for all his days, Eleanor felt something shift in her chest. This was real. She was really getting married. To this man who had appeared in her life like an answer to prayers, she had not even known how to voice. When it was her turn, Eleanor spoke her vows clearly, promising to be faithful and true, to stand by Samuel through whatever life brought them. And when Pastor Sullivan pronounced them man and wife, and Samuel gently kissed her cheek, Eleanor felt the first real spark of hope she had experienced in 5 years. They walked out of the church as husband and wife. Samuel helped Eleanor up into the wagon, and before they could leave town, Sheriff Crawford appeared, tipping his hat. "Got it done, did you?" he asked with a slight smile. "We did," Samuel confirmed. "Eleanor is now Eleanor Sterling. Marcus has no claim on her anymore. Good, that is very good. I will make sure to inform Marcus of this development if he comes around again. And Sterling, if he causes you any trouble out at your ranch, you send for me immediately. I do not hold with men who abuse women, legal rights or no legal rights. Thank you, Sheriff. They drove back to the ranch in the afternoon sunshine, and the reality of what they had done began to sink in. Eleanor was married. She was a wife, Samuel's wife. She glanced at him from the corner of her eye, this man who was now her husband, and felt a mixture of relief, gratitude, and a flutter of something that might have been nervousness or might have been anticipation. When they arrived at the ranch, Samuel's men were working in the corral, breaking a new horse. Tom looked up and noticed something different about the way Samuel was helping Eleanor down from the wagon, the way he kept his hand on her elbow. "Something happened in town, boss," Tom called out. Samuel smiled. "Eleanor and I got married. She is my wife now, which means Marcus Everett has no more claim on her." All three ranch hands stopped what they were doing and stared. Then Tom let out a whoop and slapped his hat against his leg. "Well, I will be. Congratulations to both of you. That is the best solution to the problem I can think of." Jake and Henry added their congratulations, looking genuinely pleased. Eleanor felt her cheeks flush, but managed to smile and thank them. It was strange to be congratulated on a marriage that had happened so quickly, so practically, but their happiness seemed genuine. That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Samuel and Eleanor found themselves standing awkwardly in the house, suddenly aware that they were married now and would be sharing a home as husband and wife. The question of sleeping arrangements hung in the air between them, unspoken but pressing. Finally, Samuel cleared his throat. "Eleanor, I want you to know that nothing has to change right away. You can keep the room upstairs. I will sleep down here on the sofa. I meant what I said about this being a partnership. I am not going to pressure you for anything you are not ready to give." Relief flooded through Eleanor, followed immediately by a wash of gratitude so intense it made her eyes sting. "Thank you, Samuel. I want to be a real wife to you eventually. I just need time. Time to feel safe, time to get to know you better, time to not feel like a frightened rabbit." "You take all the time you need," Samuel said firmly. "Weeks, months, however long it takes. We have made a commitment to each other, and I am in this for the long haul. There is no rush." That night, Eleanor went up to her room. Now she had to think of it as their house, and Samuel made up a bed on the sofa. For the first night in many, he did not sit on the porch keeping watch. Marcus had no legal right to Eleanor anymore, and while he might still be angry, the immediate danger had passed. Samuel slept lightly, as he always did, but he slept inside, knowing that Eleanor was safe upstairs. The days began to settle into a rhythm. Eleanor threw herself into making the house into a true home. She cleaned and organized, planted herbs in the kitchen garden, made curtains for the windows from fabric she found stored in a trunk. Samuel worked the ranch with his men, but he always made time to eat meals with Eleanor, to talk with her in the evenings, to get to know this woman who was now his wife. They learned each other's habits and preferences. Samuel discovered that Eleanor liked her coffee with cream and sugar, that she hummed softly to herself when she was concentrating on a task, that she had a quiet sense of humor that came out when she felt safe. Eleanor learned that Samuel was an early riser who liked to watch the sunrise, that he had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was thinking, that he was endlessly patient with his horses, but had little tolerance for human cruelty or dishonesty. About a week after their wedding, Marcus came to the ranch again. This time he brought a lawyer, a thin, nervous man who looked uncomfortable to be there. Samuel met them in the yard with Eleanor standing on the porch behind him. "You can't do this," Marcus snarled. You can't just steal my sister and marry her. That marriage is not legal. She was under my guardianship. She was an adult woman who made her own choice, Samuel said calmly, and the marriage is completely legal. Pastor Sullivan has filed all the proper paperwork with the county. Eleanor is my wife now. You have no claim on her. The lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Everett, I did tell you that if your sister married of her own free will, there is nothing we can do. She is legally under her husband's protection now. Marcus's face was purple with rage. She was not in her right mind. She was confused, manipulated. Sterling took advantage of her vulnerable state. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. I was in my right mind, Marcus. More in my right mind than I have been in 5 years. Samuel treated me with kindness and respect, something you never did. He protected me from you, and then he offered me a way to be free of your control forever. I chose to marry him, and I do not regret it. You ungrateful little witch, Marcus spat. After everything I did for you, taking you in when our parents died, providing for you all these years, this is how you repay me. You did not take me in. We lived in our parents' house together, and I provided for myself by keeping house and doing your bookkeeping, work you never paid me for. You did not provide for me, Marcus. You controlled me and hurt me, and now I am free of you, and there is nothing you can do about it. Marcus took a step forward, his hand raising as if to strike Eleanor, but Samuel moved faster. He was suddenly between Marcus and Eleanor, his hand gripping Marcus's wrist in a hold that made the other man wince. You will never raise your hand to her again, Samuel said, his voice quiet but filled with such menace that even Marcus took a step back when Samuel released him. She is my wife. If you touch her, if you threaten her, if you so much as speak harshly to her, I will make you regret it. Do you understand me? Marcus rubbed his wrist, his eyes full of hate. This is not over. Yes, it is, Samuel said. It is over. You have no power here, Marcus. Go back to town, go back to your store and your drinking. Stay away from my wife and my property. If you come here again, I will have the sheriff arrest you for trespassing. The lawyer tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Come on, Mr. Everett. There is nothing more we can do here. The marriage is legal. Marcus glared at both of them for a long moment, then spat on the ground and turned back to his horse. He and the lawyer rode away, and Samuel watched until they were completely out of sight before turning back to Eleanor. She was trembling, her face pale. He looked like he wanted to kill me. He will not get the chance. Eleanor, you were so brave just now, standing up to him, telling him the truth. I am proud of you. Eleanor looked up at Samuel, at this man who had become her husband, her protector, her friend. I could not have done it without you. Knowing you were there, knowing I had your support, it gave me strength I did not know I had. Samuel smiled and gently touched her cheek. You always had that strength. You just needed a safe place to let it show. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor began to truly bloom. The constant tension that had defined her life for so long gradually eased. She laughed more, spoke more freely, moved through the world without that hunched, fearful posture. She took over all the cooking, which turned out to be a blessing because she was an excellent cook, much better than Samuel. She organized the household accounts and discovered that Samuel was better with cattle than with numbers. So she took over managing the ranch finances as well. Samuel, for his part, found himself looking forward to coming back to the house each evening, to Eleanor's smile and the smell of supper cooking and the warmth of her presence. He had not realized how lonely he had been until he was no longer alone. They sat together in the evenings, sometimes talking, sometimes reading, sometimes just existing in comfortable silence. It was domestic and peaceful and surprisingly fulfilling. One evening in early November, about a month after their wedding, they sat on the porch watching the sun set. The air was cold enough that Eleanor had wrapped herself in a shawl, and Samuel had built a small fire in the fireplace inside to warm the house. They had been talking about small things: the ranch, the coming winter, plans for next spring's planting. Then Eleanor said very quietly, "Samuel, I think I am ready." Samuel looked at her, understanding immediately what she meant. His heart began to beat faster. "Eleanor, you do not have to rush anything. I told you I am willing to wait as long as you need." "I know. But I do not want to wait any more. You have been so patient, so kind. You have given me time to heal, time to feel safe. And I do feel safe now. With you. More than that, I have come to care for you, deeply. This marriage started as a practical arrangement, but it has become something more, at least for me. I want to be your wife in every way." Samuel took her hand, his thumb stroking gently over her knuckles. "It has become something more for me too. Eleanor, I have fallen in love with you. I did not plan to, did not expect to, but I have. These past weeks, getting to know you, watching you come back to life, it has been the best time of my life. I love you." Eleanor felt tears slide down her cheeks, but they were good tears, happy tears. "I love you too. I was so afraid I would never be able to trust a man, never be able to open my heart. But you made me feel safe enough to try, and somewhere along the way, trust became respect, became friendship, became love. I love you, Samuel Sterling." Samuel leaned forward and kissed her, truly kissed her for the first time since their wedding day. It was gentle and sweet and full of promise. Eleanor melted into it, her hand coming up to rest against his chest, feeling his heart pounding under her palm. When they pulled apart, Samuel stood and offered her his hand. "Come with me." Eleanor took his hand and let him lead her inside, up the stairs to the room that had been hers alone. Tonight, it would be theirs together. Samuel was gentle and patient, making sure Eleanor felt comfortable and cared for. And Eleanor, for the first time in her life, understood what it meant to give yourself to someone out of love rather than fear or obligation. It was beautiful and right and healing in ways she had not known she needed. Afterwards, they lay together in the narrow bed, Eleanor's head on Samuel's chest, his arm wrapped around her. She felt complete, whole, like a part of herself that had been missing had finally clicked into place. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. For saving me, for protecting me, for giving me time, for loving me." "Thank you," Samuel replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. "For choosing to trust me, for making this house a home, for becoming my partner in truth. I promise you, Eleanor, I will spend every day of my life making sure you never regret marrying me. I know you will, and I promise the same." Winter came to Missouri with cold winds and occasional snow. Samuel and Eleanor settled into married life, growing closer with each passing day. They moved all of Samuel's belongings upstairs, and the room that had been Eleanor's sanctuary became their shared space. They weathered the winter storms together, keeping the fires burning and the livestock fed, working side by side. Marcus stayed away, though they heard through town gossip that he was bitter and angry, that his drinking had gotten worse, that his business was suffering. Eleanor felt a pang of sadness for the brother he might have been if their parents had lived, if circumstances had been different. But she did not regret leaving him, did not regret the choice she had made. In late winter, Eleanor realized she was pregnant. She told Samuel one evening after supper, nervous about how he would react. His face lit up with such joy that her nervousness melted away. "A baby," he said wonderingly. "We are going to have a baby. Eleanor, that is wonderful. You are happy about it. I know we have not been married very long and things have been complicated." "Happy, I am thrilled. Eleanor, this baby is proof that good things can come from hard beginnings, a symbol of hope and new life." "I could not be happier." Their son was born in early autumn of 1879, a healthy boy with his father's gray-blue eyes and his mother's dark hair. They named him James, after Samuel's father, and Samuel held his son with such tenderness that Eleanor fell in love with him all over again. Life settled into a new rhythm, punctuated by the needs and joys of a baby. Samuel was a devoted father, coming in from the range multiple times a day to check on Eleanor and James, helping with the night feedings, rocking the baby to sleep while singing old cowboy songs in his rumbling voice. Eleanor had never imagined she could be this happy, this content. When James was about 6 months old, they received word that Marcus had died. He had gotten into a drunken fight at a saloon in Kansas City and taken a knife wound that became infected. Eleanor grieved, not for the man Marcus had become, but for the brother she had lost long before his death, for the family that might have been. Samuel held her while she cried, understanding that her tears were complicated, a mixture of sadness and relief and old pain finally being released. Marcus's estate, such as it was, came to Eleanor as his only living relative. The mercantile had debts, but after those were settled, there was a modest sum of money. Eleanor used it to invest in the ranch, buying more cattle and expanding their operation. She also set aside a portion for James, wanting her son to have opportunities and choices she had never had. Years passed, good years filled with hard work and simple joys. Eleanor and Samuel had 2 more children, a daughter they named Sarah, and another son they named Thomas after Samuel's ranch hand Tom, who had become like family to them. The Sterling Ranch prospered under their joint management, Eleanor's head for figures and Samuel's skill with livestock making them a formidable team. Eleanor became active in the independence community, joining other women to start a charitable society that helped women in difficult situations. She never forgot what it felt like to be trapped and afraid, and she dedicated herself to making sure other women had options and support. Samuel supported her fully in this work, even when some of the more conservative townspeople grumbled about women overstepping their place. They built a life together that was rich not in luxury, but in love and purpose and family. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Samuel took Eleanor back to the cottonwood grove by the creek where she had agreed to marry him. They stood in the dappled shade, older now, worn by work and weather but happy in ways neither had dreamed possible a decade earlier. "I think about that day sometimes," Eleanor said, her hand in Samuel's. "How scared I was, how desperate. How impossible it seemed that anything good could come from such darkness." "And now," Samuel asked, pulling her close, "now I know that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us to the best things. If Marcus had not been so terrible, I never would have run. And if I had not run, I never would have found you. I would not trade our life for anything, Samuel, not for anything in the world. Neither would I. You made me whole, Eleanor, you and our children. You turned my house into a home and my life into something worth living. I love you more today than I did 10 years ago, and I loved you quite a lot then." They kissed under the cottonwood trees, the same trees that had witnessed the beginning of their marriage. And when they returned to the ranch that evening, to their children and their home and their life together, both of them felt the deep satisfaction of knowing they had built something lasting and true. More years rolled by. James grew into a capable young man who loved the ranch and had his father's way with horses. Sarah was bright and determined, with her mother's intelligence and a fierce independence that made both parents proud. Thomas was still young, full of energy and curiosity, asking endless questions about everything. Eleanor had long since stopped looking over her shoulder, stopped flinching at sudden movements or loud voices. The fear that had been her constant companion for so long had faded into memory, replaced by confidence and peace. Samuel had kept his promise to protect her, but more than that, he had helped her learn to protect herself, to stand strong and unafraid. On a warm spring evening in 1890, Samuel and Eleanor sat on their porch, watching the sun set just as they had done countless times before. Their children were inside, the sounds of laughter and conversation drifting out through the open windows. Cattle lowed in the distance, and somewhere a nightingale sang its evening song. "I was thinking," Samuel said, rocking gently in his chair, "about that first night when I sat out here keeping watch. Do you remember?" "I remember," Eleanor said. "I woke up and saw you there, and I could not believe that someone would do that for me. A stranger keeping guard through the night just so I could feel safe enough to sleep. You were not a stranger for long. I think I knew even then that you were going to change my life. I just did not know how much or how wonderfully." Eleanor smiled, reaching over to take his hand. "You changed mine too. You saved me, Samuel, not just from Marcus, but from a life of fear and smallness. You showed me what love was supposed to look like, what marriage could be when it was built on respect and partnership. You gave me everything I needed to become the person I was meant to be." "We saved each other," Samuel said, "and we built something beautiful together." Inside, they heard James teaching Thomas how to play the harmonica, the notes wavering and uncertain but enthusiastic. Sarah was reading aloud from a book, her voice clear and confident. This was their legacy, their children growing up in a home filled with love and safety, never knowing the fear that had defined their mother's early life. Eleanor rested her head on Samuel's shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him, leather and sage and home. She thought about the terrified girl who had run through the streets of Independence 12 years ago, about the desperate woman who had collided with a rancher and changed both their lives forever. That woman felt like someone from another lifetime, though Eleanor could still remember exactly how it felt to be her. "Are you happy?" Samuel asked quietly, though he surely knew the answer, completely. "Utterly. More than I ever dreamed possible. More than words can say. You are my heart, Eleanor Sterling. You and our children. Everything good in my life started the day you ran into me and asked for help." They sat together as the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, their hands intertwined, their lives woven together so tightly that neither could imagine existing separately. The ranch stretched out around them, the land they had worked together, the home they had built together, the family they had created together. Eleanor thought about all the nights Samuel had stood guard, keeping watch while she slept, making sure she felt safe. He did not have to do that anymore because the danger had long since passed. But in a way, he still kept watch. They kept watch for each other, protecting what they had built, nurturing their family, making sure the love between them continued to grow stronger with each passing year. As they went inside for the night, Samuel's arm around Eleanor's waist, her head resting against his shoulder, both of them were filled with gratitude for the unexpected blessing that had come from such a dark beginning. Their love story had started with fear and desperation, but it had bloomed into something beautiful and enduring, a testament to the healing power of kindness, patience, and true love. The house was warm and bright, filled with the voices of their children and the evidence of a life well lived. And as Eleanor looked around at everything they had created together, she knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be, with exactly who she was meant to be with. The frightened girl who had run from her abusive brother was gone, replaced by a strong woman who had built a life of purpose and joy. And standing beside her every step of the way had been Samuel, the rancher who had stood guard every night until she felt safe, and then stayed by her side every day for the rest of their lives. Their story had begun with darkness and fear, with violence and desperation. But it ended, as the best stories do, with love conquering all, with family and home and peace. The Sterling Ranch would stand for generations, a testament to what two people could build when they chose love over fear, partnership over control, kindness over cruelty. And at the center of it all would always be the memory of that first night when a stranger became a protector became a husband, and a husband became the love of a lifetime.